tonight's special guest, Ken Green. Author, attorney, boxer, Kenneth N. Green, who wrote the book I'm from Division Street, is a defense attorney, retired bureau chief of public defenders in Los Angeles County, and a boxer inducted into the California Boxing Hall of Fame, former adjunct professor at UCLA.
I was a student. I was a postgraduate going to law school, and I took a night class at UCLA Extension.
Cool. And was it love at first sight?
It was love at first sight for me.
Oh.
And he became a reserve police officer at the age of 68. He also served in the U.S. Army while in Korea. His book tells his comeback story from poverty and academic problems growing up in Chicago's Humboldt Park to his rebound to professional and personal success. I'm from Division Street also vividly describes the Humboldt Park neighborhood where the author grew up and profiles famous and successful Jewish people who had their roots in that neighborhood. Ken lives in Sherman Oaks, California, and also has a condo in Chicago. I'm from Division Street is available right after the program, and Ken will personally sign each copy purchased. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you. After my mother died, I started looking through her belongings. I found diaries, scrapbooks, newspaper articles, memorabilia, and I was shocked to find out how many great Jews lived on my street, Division Street. Barney Ross, one of the greatest Jewish boxers that ever lived, right after Benny Leonard. Barney Ross was a three-time champion. Studs Terkel, Pulitzer Prize-winning author. Some of you may remember the great crime reporter, Art Patek. How about Benny Goodman? Michael Todd, producer, married to Elizabeth Taylor. You remember Jackie Leonard, the comedian? My father knew him as Fat Slavinsky before he became famous.
Jack, nice to have you with us. Thank you. I think so, because I enjoy being on the show very much. I can't tell you what a thrill it is being on this show again for the kind of money you pay, which is ridiculous.
How about Carl Foreman, famous movie producer? Jules Stein established the Jules Stein icon. Nicky Rosner, one of the greatest Jewish basketball players enshrined in the Jewish Basketball Hall of Fame. All of these people, their parents, came from Eastern Europe with no money and no education. Isn't this remarkable? And then the thought occurred to me that I also grew up with great Jews. I grew up in Chicago. There was a lot of anti-Semitism. I mean, my neighborhood, Stephanie, was half Jewish, half Polish.
Poland was, in some ways, worse. That's where the concentration camps were. The worst ones were in Poland. After the war, people that went back to Poland, their hometown,
For sure.
They were killed.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you went to school with girls and boys.
I did.
But you didn't have those close relationships until you were much older with the girls.
Stephanie, where I grew up on Division Street,
Yes.
A lot of my guys we were very popular. A lot of girls liked us, but we were a little socially clumsy with
You guys
girls.
were the tough guys.
We were the tough guys, we were the bad boys.
The girls came later.
Yeah,
Those
in
kind of
fact,
those mature relationships.
I was never a violent kid. I didn't commit crimes, but I hated school, and
Yeah.
most people who knew me thought I wasn't going to amount to very much.
Yeah, that's what you said in your book.
I didn't think academically that I could distinguish myself. I never read a book to completion until I went to college.
You made a 180-degree turn.
My father waited about a week after I got home from the service. And he took me in the bedroom, and he closed the door, and he spoke to me in Yiddish. And he said, "Mein Sohn, was will der tun mit dein Leben?" And that means, "My son, what will you do with your life?" And I said, "Dad, I want to do what you do." My father was a house painter. My father said, "It's a very hard life." He said, "You're a smart kid." He said, "I think you could be president." I said, "No, Dad, I want to be a painter." And the third day I came home, my face was covered with paint. And I said, "Dad, I'm going to be a lawyer. The only thing, Stephanie, that would have stopped me was death. I'd come home from the service, and I saw a lot of guys that most of them were from the South, and they had nothing, very poor. And I got motivated. I said, I don't want to end up like these guys. I want to do something with my life. They called it a deuce in those days, a $2 bill.
Yes.
The gamblers used it at the racetrack. And he said, wrap it around your driver's license. And when you're stopped by a police officer, hand them the $2 with the license. And so they would stop me frequently.
For no reason.
For no reason at all. I was a very careful driver. And I'd hand the cop the deuce with the license.
Yep.
And they let me go. Years later, I tried that, and one of the cops said, didn't you ever hear of inflation?
So what happened?
So he let me go. He laughed. But
Gave you a warning. Next time it better be a 5. You're both lawyers, so when you have arguments at night, I hear she wins. You had some interesting conversations at night.
Yes, I win all the arguments.
Cool.
no, actually, we both think pretty much alike. Even though I was a defense lawyer, I'm not the same kind of guy I was when I started, because there's a lot more violence these days.
Your school's closing. Are you very sad?
Very
Von
sad, very sad.
And you're a friend. Or
Hi, my name's Douglas. I'm from Division Street, too.
What's your favorite memory of Division Street?
Growing up,
Yeah. You know
the
what?
theater, the movies, the safety, going to the park, doing things you just can't do now.
What do you think of your old school closing this year?
Sad. Kenny School, my school, they're all closing. It's very sad.
Von Humboldt.
Von Humboldt, mine was Lafayette.
On Humboldt Grammar School, they closed it down. Every time I come back, the first thing I do, Stephanie, I drive down Division Street and I go to Von Humboldt Grammar School. There was one other reason that I decided to write the book. It was my hope that I can inspire children who lack self-esteem, because I was thrown out of high school. But then I got involved in boxing. Where I grew up, every Jewish guy I knew loved boxing. I got hooked on it sitting on my father's knee, listening to the rematch of Joe Louis and Max Schmeling.
While Ken Green was talking about that fight, he listened to it with his dad on the radio.
This is on Division Street. What year was this?
1938. The fight was in New York.
But you listened to it in Chicago.
On the radio. In fact, I was already in bed because the fight probably started in New York at 8 o'clock, so it was 7 o'clock here in Chicago. So I'm 7 years old. My dad, we're German, Engels, and so it's Schmeling and Joe Louis.
Okay.
And so they started swinging at each other, and then Joe Louis caught him right in the side, and they went, oh, like that, and that's what put him down. And then Clem McCarthy was doing the announcing, and he's down, and it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he's out, and Joe Louis reclaims the title of the world's greatest heavyweight champ. Max Schmeling had beat him 2 years ago, also in New York. And this was a great, great fight. And this was pre-1938, pre to World War II.
Yes.
So it was a big, big thing.
And it was big in Chicago on Division Street.
It was big on Division Street in Chicago. You can believe it.